Hello, and apologies for that. I think we can begin immediately. As I finish with this one, allow me to just disable this so that we go straight. So welcome to Conversations with Esther. We apologize for beginning late, but we are now all set for this. Our speaker for tonight, Madam Kuresha, is in the room. So I will go straight into starting off our session as usual. Let us pray. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this session. As we begin, we ask that you be with us and that you will guide us and lead us in Jesus' name. Amen. So for those that could be joining us for the very first time, I want to quickly go into introducing Conversations with Esther. We are an online platform. However, we also still do the trainings, professionally driven to educate and rebuild your mindset. We help ignite ethical and authentic leadership, promoting best practice within the industry. Conversations with Esther equips the workplace with relevant legal, HR, and holistic wellness skills while supporting employers in attracting, developing, motivating, and retaining productive talent. Now, we are guided by 3 values: integrity, excellence, and impact. We envision a workplace transformed by candid conversations, respectable relationships, and intentional leadership. This has been our theme for the year 2024. Physical wellness is what we have handled. Our theme is prioritizing holistic wellness. So we handled physical, mental, intellectual, environmental, spiritual, social, and financial wellness. We are actually on our last pillar. If you look at this, we did the physical in January, then we went to mental, financial, social, spiritual, environmental, and we are doing the last pillar, which is intellectual, this August. Straight on to our upcoming conference, Capacity Building Conference, where we will discuss culture or strategy, which one comes first. And this is what we say: when it comes to creating high performance and a competitive advantage, does culture or strategy come first? Does corporate culture, the how, precede the business strategy, the what? Or is it the other way around? Now, the age-old question of which comes first, the chicken or the egg, forms the basis of an ongoing debate in the business and organizational development worlds. Now, we're inviting you to join us, and I will go straight into the poster here, for 3 days. 3 days from Wednesday 28th to Friday 30th of August. 3 days. We have speakers that will transform the way you think about organizational culture and strategy. Now, our model is very different because our speakers will not just be speaking, they will actually be training you on how to develop your strategy, how to look into your policies and processes. Our very own speaker for tonight, Madam Kuresha, will be opening the entire conference. We are so honored. We have Dr. Nelson Kuria, who will be our keynote speaker. We have Tobias Alando, who is the COO for Kenya Association of Manufacturers. We have Engineer John Mativo, the MD for Ketraco, who will also be speaking. I will also be speaking on wellness and the legal aspects of the business. And Madam Kuresha will be speaking to us on aligning your culture, the HR part of it. What is our role? And I know today she's going to touch a bit on that. Our charges are only $45,000 per person for the 3 days at Serena Hotel. So book your slot. We are having bookings coming in every day. Book your spot for that. So you can reach us, Conversations with Esther Katiba, on YouTube. Watch our other sessions, including this one on our YouTube, Conversations with Esther Katiba. You can reach me on Esther Katiba on LinkedIn, our Instagram, Conversations with Esther, and you can drop us an email at info@conversationswithesther. So going straight into today's session, I know I am really going super fast. The role of HR in supporting business strategy. Now, what is the role of HR in supporting business strategy? Now, HR isn't simply the hiring and firing of employees. HR is expected to infuse strategic discussions and activities across the business to help achieve the overall company strategy. Now, this ensures business agility and cost efficiency, mitigates HR risks, and fosters a positive organizational culture, ultimately leading to a big company's success. So our speaker, I want to go straight into bringing the speaker for tonight. Our speaker is the executive director for IHRM. There's no better person to speak to this than our very own Kuresha, Madam Kuresha. So allow me to give this platform to Madam Kuresha for the next 40 minutes or thereabout as we learn from the best. Karibu sana, Madam Kuresha. And I have seen Irene here. Thank you, Irene. Thank you, Daniel. IHRM is in the room. This is HR month. So we equip the HR professionals and everyone else about the HR. Karibu sana, Madam Kuresha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Esther. Good evening, everyone who is on the call. You could actually wave by using the emojis. At least now communication has been made better. You don't have to. So just by show of the emojis. For those of us who are here, I hope everyone had an excellent Wednesday. I would like to, first of all, start by appreciating the professionals like Esther who dedicate their time and resources to ensure the rest of us from the different professionals benefit from these different experts every Wednesday from 7 to 8. Thank you so much, Esther, for making that contribution and also for the consistency. I really appreciate. So my name is CHRP Kuresha Abdullahi, the Executive Director of the Institute of Human Resource Management. We are the body that regulates the HR profession in Kenya. And this month, and I am glad we're closing the month in style, is we celebrate the HR month. We celebrate HR month every July because the Institute and our founders came together July 1986 for us to have a platform as HR professionals to take our strategic role within the different organizations we work for. So what a better time and a better place for us to come together and discuss what is our role then in supporting the business strategy within our different institutions. And I will go straight to the point. And it's important that we today, in the next 40 minutes, I will just take you through and have a discussion with you on how can we support our businesses and how has HR transformed from just the traditional role to becoming a strategic partner. And I'll start by defining the word business strategy. This is the long-term planning to achieve the specific goals within a certain organization. And it's also key that the HR professionals are part of these discussions because you will not only help the defining the business goals, but also you contribute to the success of the organization. And as you are aware, no organization exists without people. Even when you hear that we have automated most of our processes, but who is behind those machines? There are people. When you need support, you need to call the technical team. So it's key that we take our central stage as HR professionals. Now, we are known for just Before, the traditional roles were recruiting, hiring, employee relations, compensation and benefits. But over the time, we have gone into other issues as HR professionals. And allow me to say, when the topic we're discussing today is how do we align as HR professionals and contribute to the business strategy. Before I even move from this slide, the different things we are known for, because remember, we're talking about the business strategy, but there are also HR strategies. Recruitment has a strategy, employee relations has a strategy, compensation and benefit is a strategy, learning and development is a strategy. So those are documents that the HR professionals develop at different levels to see on how they can support their different institutions. And it's key for us to first of all understand that. And I will now linking the business strategy and how the HR supports. Remember, I just talked about what we are known for as HR professionals, the traditional way of doing things. But the modern HR function, we are now strategic partners in business planning. I don't think there is any business, whether private or public, that a planning happens without involving the HR professionals. Number two, on matters talent management and development. Traditionally, everyone assumes that once you bring people on board, then it's upon themselves to continue developing their talents. But now this is something that the HR leads on, to continue reskilling, upskilling, and retooling those who are within their organizations. And another thing that how we evolved as HR is shaping people, leadership, and the culture of organization. And this helps in empowering the organization to grow and build a sustainable competitive advantage and drive positive societal impact. Every organization exists for one reason, and not only to make profit, but also impact the society and the environment where they work in. And HR must make their business to ensure that that happens. Now, more than ever, and this came with COVID, that HR has put its footing in the boardroom, and we are influencing business decisions. And we are also working towards the leadership capabilities and succession planning. We're talking about what's next. We have a CEO, we have different directorates. So who is next in the pipeline for that talent? And now we not only have a chair on the table, but we make sure that any issues related to people are given considerations and are integrated into the strategic planning. Because for the institution to even make an impact, the people must come first, and that agenda should be driven by the HR professionals. So how do we do that, and how do we support? As a strategic partner, we must strive to ensure that we align the company culture with the strategic goals. And by doing that, we must ensure that when I talk about the HR, I will also like to bring in the issues of the human capital, the different departments within the institutions. So when you bring on board employees, because that is now our primary role as HR professionals, we have to see how do we ensure that they're aligned to the company values and strategy. And we all know that famous saying that strategy, can someone type in the strategy? There is the word breakfast, there is culture, I give you 30 seconds to type in that famous quote that we all talk about so that we can actually demystify on what it means. Thank you so much. And I define this in my own way. You remember, for those of you who want to live healthy, you're told, eat breakfast like a king. And what it means is that when your culture is not fixed, then whatever strategy you bring on board, that is what the strategy will feed into. So you have to make sure that your values, the principles, everything that the institution stands for can actually drive the strategy you have in place. So don't allow the eating breakfast like a king to swallow your strategy because you do not have the right culture. And that is where we come in as HR professionals. Now, over and above aligning the company culture, we must attract and retain top talent to drive the business strategy. Remember, what makes you stand out from your competition is how enabling your environment is, how well are your policies defined, and how well can the people you're bringing on board identify with your institution's culture. And for those of us, and I'm hoping most of us are the HR professionals, we are always talking about issues around, I think that we need to mute some people. When you asked, why are you applying to this organization? Most of the time we focus on the individual. We forget that we must bring out, and I joined Jay earlier on our career fair when he talked about, he said, you must understand and you must know as much as possible about the organization you're going into. So the people you're bringing in should not just be coming in for a livelihood, but they should be able to relate and identify themselves with that, what the institution is driving, okay? And you can achieve that by having in place a robust onboarding program. As HR professionals, this is where we must put a lot of effort into. Because remember, there is a whole book written about what got you there won't keep you there. So if we are not driving the agenda of the institution, ensuring that the different departments, the different people that we have onboarded, that they're aligned to the culture, they understand our business model, and they're also able to identify what is the vision and the mission and how they are contributing to that vision and mission, whether they're joining at an entry level or at the executive level. You have to make sure that you have a program. And now we have advanced. Sometimes you don't even need to have that human interaction, that you could even send prior, before they join, so that they're aware on the different teams, the different dynamics within the institution, what role they will be playing, and what is the expectation at the end of the day. So it's more of the quality they bring on board than the quantity of their time. And another way that we can actually support the business strategy is leadership and development. You will realize that, and it has become, I'm really glad that even though it's always good to look outside, sometimes it's good to build talent internally. And I've seen several different businesses within this country have adopted that strategy, that transitioning into leadership roles to people who understand the business. And it did not just happen by accident. If you follow their story, they've been prepared for that role. And how do you do that? Assuming you know that one of your directors, maybe your marketing director or head of marketing, whichever way you call it, has like maybe 3 years to the end of their contract, you must prepare the second in line for that role. And for you to prepare, you must identify the gaps, and you do that through a TNA. What is it that they need to improve on? What are some of the leadership skills that they will need to develop on for them to take up that role? And you also look into what are those other specific skills that are required by this position. Sometimes could be emotional intelligence, the critical thinking, their business acumen. So you focus, and it's short courses, and then you also give them the opportunity to see how that role works through either job sharing or job shadowing. Most of the time, again, as HR professionals, we assume that is the role of the leader of that department. You must have the strategies in place to support the business and have someone that, like, normally we encourage you have first in line, second in line, and third in line, so that everyone is prepared that to take up the role when either someone has gone for a long leave, or they exited from the institution, or they have moved to another department, because some people are multi-skilled. So the succession planning is key when it comes to supporting the business strategy. Now, another thing that the HR professionals should do is be the driver of the cultural transformation and inclusivity within your organization. It has been proven by different research, different studies, that organizations who are inclusive actually outperform their peers. So how are you doing that? Even though sometimes maybe the business you do is transactional, but you must be forward thinking in a way that what you are known and what you can be identified to is there's a blueprint, and that blueprint should be written down, and should the enablers and the sponsors of those blueprints should be the HR professionals. I should have started with this, but every organization should consider the HR role to be the foundation of any organization, because we are involved from recruitment to retaining to the rewarding, all the way to either retrenchment or transitioning out of the organization. So if we are not involved, and if we are not the ones who are the policy drivers, then that organization, we may not be the strategic partners that we've worked so hard for over the years as the profession has evolved. Another way we can support this business strategy is through workforce planning, which we must align with the business goals. And how do we do that? You must understand what are we driving and what are our long-term goals as an organization. And once you master that, then you look into what are the skills that are required for us to drive the business to the direction that has already been identified by our vision carriers. So once that happens, and you work with the different departments for them to identify that these are the key roles we need for us to drive the business. And once that document, again, should be developed, shared with everyone, and for the skills that maybe if there are any gaps, then you work in fixing them or training. It could be maybe sometimes you just need someone who can do in-house, or sometimes you have to do it externally. But the bottom line here is that you should not have a workforce that is not aligned with the business goal. And I have said it earlier, that is from the entry all the way to the top. And again, we need to also ensure that we enable and enhance organization agility and innovation. It's one thing having a business strategy. It's another thing allowing the team that work for you to be agile and innovate around the business to make sure that they are delivering for you. That is key. And I think most organizations now have agile teams who are innovative enough to come up with different products that can actually drive their business. And if you look into like the business daily, you will always see individuals winning different awards because of the innovations they brought to their different institutions. The in one right now is the one with the media. Before we could just see the media on the mainstream, but we have seen some of the media houses now incorporating the space on X to their news hours, especially the 9 p.m. And that is actually helping them to reach larger audience. And that is a daring move to take. And if you don't have an agile team, then they will not have thought that there is a way we can link and have the news both on the mainstream and also engage in social media. So that is now the next game changer within the media houses. We've had our share during COVID that we never thought we could meet or have transact business online, but the uptakes were very low from Teams, the Messenger, the Zoom, the WebEx have now gone to other extents. Last week I was reading that there was a Zoom meeting which actually accommodated more than 250,000 people. So are we changing on how we think and how we drive our business, especially if you're running a global institution? Another way that we can support the business strategy is encouraging data-driven decision making. And I saw my friend Nelson earlier on in this call, and he will tell you that if you ever wanted to make a point in a boardroom, then make sure that you have data. Data actually sets you free. And if you can show the leadership and the board of directors that if we invest to this direction, then this is the return on investment. Or even as they develop their strategies, you collect data on what is the market asking for, how can the employees contribute to that, and then it actually gives you that sense of belonging, not only from getting the buy-in from the board of directors or even the executives, but now the employees and the market you serve feeling being heard. And it's no longer about the role of the marketing department or sales department. That's why we have the HR analytics. And something that is coming up fast and furious is that before the HR profession was linear, that you must start from a HR assistant, a HR manager, officer, manager, and that. But now we're seeing people who are just HR analytics growing their career. And this is now proven through research that they even go all the way to becoming chief human resource officers. So as HR professionals, we must ensure that our organizations, whichever decision they're making, whichever strategies they are coming up with, it's not just out of the blues. It's not because someone else is doing it, but it's because it has been informed by data. Over and above, for any organization to succeed, a strong organizational culture is key in executing the strategy. And above all, the discipline in ensuring that everyone actually abides by the culture. Sometimes you will need time with some people, others just join in quickly, but it's key that you lead from the front as HR professionals, that if you've said this is what we will be known for as organization, then remember, your stakeholders are your spokesperson out there. And I am very passionate to always say there's always this misconception that when we talk about culture, when we talk about strategy, it should only be a private sector centric. No, this is even for the public sector. And you will see that when you go to the Huduma centers, sometimes you will feel that there are some which are more efficient than others. So instead of going to town, you will feel safe. Let me go on to the one to sleep, because I've realized there I will be served better and the reception and the customer experience is better compared to others. Now, if you have such institutions, then you have to ensure that the language and the feedback you get from everyone is the same. And how do you achieve that? Is through investing in training and development, reskilling, upskilling, and continuing to align with what is it that we should be known for in terms of our values, in terms of our ethics, in terms of our delivery, in terms of keeping our promises, especially on how we said we will deliver on different issues. Now, I know that most of the time, and I'm glad I spoke to this, is that when we mention something, we need to make sure that we have the data. And if you read far and wide, and I only picked on 2 research, which I thought were very recent, that companies that are actually aligned and have HR strategies so their businesses improve by 20%. That was 2022 study, and I'm very sure there are other studies which are very recent. And Gallup in 2020 indicated that employees who understand their role in achieving company goals are 2.8 times more engaged than their other colleagues. What that means is that it's one thing having a business strategy in place, it's another thing to unpack and help your employees understand so that everybody knows where do they fit and what can they contribute and how can they help the organization to continue innovating. As I conclude, Esther, we must appreciate as HR professionals that our roles are evolving. As we evolve, we must engage on matters around employee wellness, doing surveys around employee engagement, reskilling, retooling our different workforce is also key. We also need to make sure and continue preaching the importance of culture in strategic success. You will not want to be eaten for breakfast. And we say, let's eat breakfast like a king. What that means is you swallow everything at once, and then you're done for the day, and if someone else does, and if it's bad, it's bad. So you have to protect your culture so that it does not swallow what you're driving. And sometimes I'm sure you've seen people struggling to defend their companies that, no, it's not like this. You know, the minute, especially if you have other stakeholders, the minute your image is messed up out there, then it's even hard for your employees to defend it. So you must stand on what you preach, and you must have your employees to be the advocate. And the HR professionals play a key role in that by the virtue that you are recruiting those employees to the organization. You must retain them, and also they must understand what is expected of them in terms of carrying the mantle of the culture of the organization as they serve the different stakeholders within that market dynamic. We also need to align our HR practices with the strategic objectives, and this can actually help the organization to enhance its performance, foster innovation, and give the organization a competitive edge. The HR department can no longer just be a paper pusher. We can no longer be doing just administration, the traditional work of just rewards, employee relations, and recruitment. It's time for us to foster innovation, and it's time for us to be very strategic, that as we come up with the different strategies that I've mentioned, it's aligned with the institution, and we keep on updating. And we update by ensuring that the board, the executive, the employees are aligned. And once you get those three angles right, then you do not have to worry about your market share. You do not have to worry about how are my customers served. And you could actually get feedback, especially if you do the different surveys on your different clientele, because you've already created an enabling environment by playing your role as a HR professional who is no longer the traditionalist, but now you are the business partner, you are the strategist, and now the word that I actually, as I have read the HR, one thing that I've said I will need to look into more and even come up with writings around it is that we are now the business leaders. We are the business coordinators, because once we understand the strategies, once we understand where the business is heading, then through the workforce planning and attracting the right talent to the institution, then that actually gives us the upper hand to be advising the boards and the executives for our institutions to maintain a competitive edge that everyone wants to associate with. Thank you so much, Esther. Mine was brief. I did not want to go into classroom, but just go straight to what is expected of us as HR professionals as we continue to build our different institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Kuresha. Thank you, thank you. I have taken notes, and I'm sure everyone else is taking notes. You know, the beauty about loving your profession is coming with a learner's mindset. And the first one you said was HR in the boardroom. I remember that, and it's not the quality, the quantity, it's a quality. I think those are conversations that we need to keep going. You see, for a long time, we have been defined as, I like what you said, the paper pusher. We've been defined as flower girls and page boys, but we have moved into a strategic part, and I'm encouraging the audience to send in their question or just raise your hand so that we can give you an opportunity to speak and ask a question. Ibrahim says, thanks so much, Madam Kuresha, for the presentation. I saw Richie Magoma here saying something. So I'm still thinking about understanding the boardroom language, and that has really been it for HR. I'm super proud of HR professionals because we have moved from the administrative part to understanding the boardroom language. And some years back, I would hear people say, you know, the HR does not understand numbers, you know, and the language of the boardroom is numbers. And that's why sometimes you won't find some HRs, not all, most are now getting into the boardroom, because when the language of numbers is spoken, we tend to shy away. So, Madam Kuresha, talk about
in regard to
talk about
those,
hello. Jay, you can help me with that. Talk about HR understanding the boardroom language. You're in the boardroom. Talk to us.
So thank you, Esther. I think that statement is actually far-fetched, yeah? And I would like to say that sometimes, you know, we put so much into the finances that, and these finances, and for those of you who did HR accounting, it could not even be as delicate as, I mean, as difficult as people are trying to put. And you will see most of the times the organization goals are all about, this is what we need to achieve in terms of the numbers. This is like, should be our top priority. And most of the time it's the HR, the finance who need to drive. But we come in with the people aspect and the talent. And we must show that even as you talk about those numbers, as you talk about those finances, you must have the basics in terms of understanding the basic accounting, that for every shilling we invest, this is the return on investment we are expecting. So as HR professionals, it is our role to actually drive that. And when I say that is, when you tell your organization that we need to invest on this technology, you should be able to come up with the figures that this is what it's going to cost us. But in return, we will be able to serve this number of people, which translates to this much of either service delivery or this much of impact in terms of if it's a social organization, or if it's a profit-making organization, that right now with the machine we have, we are reaching 100 people. But if we upgrade it, we will be able to reach 300 people, and reaching 300 people means our profit increases by this percentage. So there's nothing hard with just balancing the numbers, that for you, you're there, and you will say, I will need maybe a HRIS director, and why I need it is because they need to put these systems in place. This is what is involved, but this is the impact. So that actually helps us from being seen just a cost, which, by the way, most of the time, and I like Esther, you brought in this aspect, that even though most organizations say HR is a cost, we're not even allowed to go and defend that even though I'm costing you this much in terms of payroll, but this is what I am giving in return. So it's not as difficult as it used to be. And now for the HR professionals, we have simplified that, and we actually have courses around finance for non-finance, whether you are either the management, whether you are at the top of the leadership or at the start of your career, for you to understand the basics of finance. But when it comes to the boardroom, and for those of us who are there, you are not told to solve those very difficult maths questions. It's all about understanding the numbers. It's all about understanding the business strategy. And it's all about understanding the basic maths of, when I invest this shilling, this is the return on investment I expect. And this is because I've already seen the long-term goals of the institution in terms of the strategy. Then this is what we need to do this year, the second year, the third year, and the practice continues. So simply put, Esther, it's not, let's not leave the finance matters in the boardroom to just the experts, but also chip in and understand, because we want to grow. We will not want to be just the people who just talk about the people matters, because talent, people, culture, all that. And without people, you not have organization. And without people, you'll not even be talking about those numbers. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Esther. I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Kresha, for that wonderful reminder of the things that we need to do so that we can become strategic business partners. But one of the problems that is encountered by HR professionals is to balance the needs of people strategy, and business. Like, for example, how a HR should balance issues of redundancy, issues of discipline, and business requirements that could probably be a hindrance towards creating a good brand for HR because of those differences. People's strategies could be different and business strategies could be different, and the HR ends up getting the bad name for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And I have started with my, sorry, Esther, you wanted to add something?
No, proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. So when I started my presentation, I talked about aligning those business strategy with the people strategy. That is key. And I've also mentioned that you must do a robust onboarding because you need, discipline is key and it's the center of everything we do. And why I say this is you will get it wrong the first time. And when we're talking about matters in discipline or even doing that disciplinary procedure, most of the time is not to victimize someone, but to bring you back to what is it that is expected of you in terms of what is within our culture as an organization, what is within our people's strategy, and how is it aligned to our business strategy. So that we are not driving, we should not be always to be the prefects. And I've also mentioned that most of the time we should focus on the quality more than the quantity. And let me say this, and I hope that Richard and everyone, that if this can stick and every organization can actually do this, we will be very far as a country. And simply put is we should all know what is right and what is wrong. As much as we are in our different roles to earn a livelihood, we should also know that we are guided by certain principles. How you run and how you work within an organization is not the same as how you run your home. So you must be able to switch from one role to the next. And that is how you will avoid most of the issues that this is our people strategy, this is our business strategy. They must be aligned, and we should all be working towards the business strategy. And for that to happen, we must put a lot of effort that we are involved from the beginning. And that's why I've mentioned about the data, making a decision based on data, making decision based on research that we've done, and we have the contribution of the employees so that they're able to define that this is our business strategy. So how will be our contribution to help the business move forward? And then based on that, we can develop the rest of the strategies to align to that business strategies. And remember, the reason why most of the time we do HR audits is either because there are legal changes or the business dynamics have changed or the emerging issues within the industries which have not yet been captured legally or which are not aligned, which are not within our business strategy. Thank you. Thank you, Esther. Back to you.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether we have anyone with a question, anyone else with a question. And in the meantime, I'm seeing comments, a very good presentation. I see Rebecca, wow, HR should not be the paper pusher traditionalist, but foster innovation and become business leaders and strategists. We need to lead in boardrooms and be heard as well. And I like that part of be heard as well. When you get into the boardroom, speak up, Amazing presentation. My takeaway, Charity says, is make sure you have your data. That's absolutely true. Thank you. A lot of thank you there. Thanks for the presentation. Retention is key. Now, we will definitely not share the presentation, but we are live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube, Conversations with Esther Katiba, so you can always watch that there. And Madam Kuresha, thank you, because this takes me back to, I hold different business conversations with different people, and HR needs to understand that we carry the brand. We are actually brand ambassadors. We push the brand of an organization. And the brand is not just the logos and the others, it's employee experience, aligning the strategy with the people, as you have said, and understanding the entire business. You may not be an expert in finance, in branding, in marketing, in procurement, in everything, but understand the basics of every department, so that as you make HR decisions, as Madam Kuresha has said, and as you defend yourself in the boardroom, sometimes a question will be thrown, which is very strategic, do you understand our strategy to reach the customers? You shouldn't be blank, as HR. So get to also understand how the business runs end to end. And I see someone saying they have a question. Vivian, yes, go ahead. Vivian says, I have a question, allow me to voice it. Please do, Vivian, unmute.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you so much for the presentation. My question is, I'm not a HR by profession. I'm in sales and marketing. So I recently got a new job and I'm just done with my probation and I've been confirmed. Currently, my job is to get more sales, new companies, just new businesses to keep the business going. But from where I sit, there is a big culture issue, whereby this place kind of runs or like government, 8 to 5, not going the extra mile. Of course, now we are doing a lot of social media as well. How can I, as a sales and marketing manager, loop in the HR to look into the organization culture, and also now data? I'm working a lot with data. Probably last year we had 20 clients. They have reduced to maybe 10 or 7. Then what is our role? Where did we drop the ball? As much as there is generic feedback, or your pricing, or to tender, or what, how can I loop in the HR to relook into these matters? It probably is our quality does not match what the client wants, and maybe we are not able to pick that up and to change it. So from a junior, someone who's recently new, I feel like that's the gap. How can I go about that? Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Kuresha.
Thank you so much for that question, Vivian. And I think you've most organizations go through that, and that's why for this presentation, when I said what is the role of HR in driving the business strategy, and now for you who has just come into the organization and trying to find how the ways you can help, I always say that sometimes you have to be that advocate and you need to lead by example. Number one, it could be that for an institution which is involved with sales, that first of all, I would say, if you get your quality right and if you get the employees' attitude right, then it doesn't matter what you're selling. People will always identify with you. Now, how can you bring that to the attention of the HR is, first of all, you need to understand, and from what you've mentioned, you've just come in as a salesperson, is what is the business driving? And you will not want to be seen that the prefect. So as you bring that data, is even engaged. And now when you're engaging, you actually use the coaching mode of you walk in as Vivian and ask me, Kuresha, the HR, that I've been here the last 6 months, and this is the feedback I got about the institution. What do you think we can do? And what is it that we can do as HR professionals? I mean, as a HR department, how can you help us to drive this business? Because we already have it in writing, because if you are not given a target on the number of sales to make, then you will not even be going that extra mile. Sometimes it could be that you're working the 8 to 5. Maybe could it be that it's beyond the culture, because sometimes could be the attitude of the employees towards that specific employer. So Vivian, whatever I have presented here, I wish you could just play it back for your HR, but without looking like you're policing or you're the prefect, but bringing to their attention that I've joined this call and I think we need to do ABCD, or what do you think? You might be surprised. Sometimes they have the solutions, and with your contribution, then you can actually move that company ahead. And one thing I agree with you is that it's not about your product being expensive or your product. You exist because you have seen that there is a need within the market. You exist because you have seen that there are those 20 you can convince, and you exist because you believe you can actually go beyond that 20. Now, coupled with improving the culture of the institution, I assure you, you will go far. You've not mentioned whether you're in the private or the public sector, but whichever sector you are in, I always want everyone to drive one agenda, and that one agenda is we are here for the people and we are here for the business. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much. Understood.
Good, thank you. And I know yes, we are 7 minutes past time, but maybe to close, Madam Kuresha, I'm seeing a question from Clara. How do you extensively support global teams? I don't know if she can make that clear, whether it's to IHRM, I'm thinking so. And there's another one here from Doreen saying, great conversation. How do you deal with a situation when speaking up in the boardroom is seen as a stumbling block to strategies that do not incorporate people perspective in the boardroom? I think we'll just handle that and then we can close.
Thank you so much. Allow me to just speak on the question of Clara on how do you support global teams. We've just been made a global village, and I think in one of the political arenas in the US last week, one Zoom call had more than 250,000. And I think they said that was the largest Zoom call ever that was registered. And first of all, as a global team, are you all aligned in terms of, is it the same sector that you're driving? Are you having the same strategies? Because I know some organizations, depending on which country they are in, the strategies on what they're driving could be different. But the best way is sometimes even the timing, the different timings could be issues. Nowadays, we have a lot of tools that can actually help us work together as a global team. There is Box, there is a Google space whereby I could work on a document while someone else continues on the next hour, another person on the next hour. You could even encourage to have such meetups that maybe 30 minutes just before you start your day, and find out how is everyone doing and how are we aligned to the business strategy, and then keeping the conversation alive. Because sometimes we have local problems, but what could actually help us solve are global solutions, especially if the market niche and the product we are selling is the same. So Clara, take advantage of technology, take advantage of the different spaces, and over and above, make sure that you understand the business. Even though you're a global team, are you all in the same space of driving that business, or is it different businesses depending on the needs of that office that you are in? And now, Doreen, it's true sometimes that when you go to the boardrooms, some of the conversations can be seen as a stumbling blocks. And 2 years ago, someone, and I think about 3 people who are in that meeting and this, we've been told the meetings before the meeting. Before you walk in to any boardroom, you have to make sure that you have a sponsor and you have several allies. So the meeting happens before the boardroom. Actually, the boardroom, you come in to just validate. So that is actually a skill of its own that as HR professionals, we need to learn how to lobby, and we need to learn that what we are trying to present and what we're trying to push actually stands out, so that when you walk in, you have that first person who will say, great idea, and you have several allies because you've already lobbied who will not feel that what you're bringing to the table. Sometimes, Doreen, when you present your conversation and when you present the strategy you want to take to the boardroom, you will find even those volunteers who will help you shape it well because they understand their board members better than you do and help you align to the interest on what is it that the board members are looking for. So remember to have the conversations before you get into the boardroom. Thank you.
Wow, what a way to finish that. I love that, Madam Kuresha. The meeting before the meeting. Have your allies that will lobby and validate. And that's a secret. That's a secret, I think, that we all need to walk away from here with and end the HR celebration month with. And I'm sure, Madam Kuresha, and I don't know, Irene is still in the call. Irene, are you still there? Because I should actually task Irene or IHRM.
Yes, I am.
Please tell us about the sports day. I can't close without
that. Thank you. Thank you, Esther, for the opportunity. I was not prepared to speak, but we are always ready. And thank you, Madam Kuresha, for sharing the insights. Yes, today is the 31st of July, so technically it's the end of the month of July, which is HR month. But we have 2 activities which will happen in the month of August, and that is a sports day on the 3rd of August. This is this Saturday from 8 a.m. to around 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. It's going to be at the Public Service Club in Upper Hill, just opposite Kenyatta National Hospital, or around that area. And we have had teams register to participate, and you can still look out for that. We have closed the registration, I must say, but if you reach out to us, we will let you know whether we still have an opportunity for you to participate. So feel free to reach out to our HRM, then we can guide you. And then we have on the 9th of August, a graduation ceremony for our mentorship program called Transcend. This is cohort 2. We'll be graduating close to 100 mentees who have gone through a 12-month program. I think for this platform is just to encourage us to look out for the call for cohort 3. It's a wonderful opportunity where seasoned professionals come back and give back to the younger professionals. We have seen a lot of cross mentorship with the younger ones also mentoring the seasoned ones, and it's a wonderful growth opportunity. So those are the 2 main activities that we have going, but we'll keep the conversations going. So thank you, Esther, for having us.
Thank you very much, Madam Kuresha. Thank you. There was no better way to close the month than to have you with us, and thank you for the time. Thank you, IHRM, and thank you everyone for joining. Have a good evening and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.